Yeah, sure. They want to turn it so they can paint. All right, so the American part of it. What is America? How do I look at America? What do I see when I look at America? I was very fortunate to land in the Bay Area, which is very different from the rest of America as I've been told about. I was fortunate that I came across a job training program for youth, and I love teaching art. So in teaching art, I'm teaching at Youth Spirit Artworks, and that's my director, Sally Heinemann, right there. Yeah, with her husband, Don. And I must thank you greatly, because the youth I've met while teaching at Youth Spirit Artworks, Brandon being one of them at the back who was painting just now, and Inti also, showed me something about America I did not know. There was a youth who said to me, he looked at me, and then he looked away. And then he looked at me, and then he kind of like held his gaze, then he looked away. Then one day he came up and says, "Hey man, why are your pants so high?" Okay, all right. Okay, yeah. And I explained to him because I wear a belt. And he said, "I do too, lady, just down here." And it didn't ring to me that I was sticking out as, foreigner, new to America. But what it also showed me was, I've never been stopped by the police once. I've never been stigmatized. I've never been even asked a question by the police. Which is weird, because most of the youth I've taught have. Most of them speak of Most of the youth speak of a land that's not for them. They speak of the prison as if it was a second home. They speak of color as if it was poison. During my 3 years of teaching at Youth Spirit Artworks, I finally came across a guy called JR first, who happened to walk into the studio. JR, that's JR right there. And JR runs a project called Beyond This Prison. And Beyond This Prison, in a basic format, is about writing to inmates and getting insights from inmates and, trying to come up with reason to life, So the project is about trying to keep youth off the street and getting them not to do what the guys who are inside had done. And I wrote once to Glenn Robinson, who is the guy we write to, and some of his letters really shocked me, because they gave me a view of America I wouldn't have gotten anywhere else. It took a lot of heartache, pain, and suffering for me to realize that I could do something about my situation, or I could continue to let my situation dictate my life. I was placing blame on everyone and anyone just to dodge the fact that I made my own choices in life. Once I got through blaming, though, the pain was still there. I finally came to the conclusion that I was the one to blame. I began to panic, because responsibility was not something I was accustomed to. Glenn Robinson. Now, I read that quote because, as I mentioned, in London I was very angry. I was stressed and I blamed everybody for my situation. But after corresponding with Glenn and working with the youth at Youth Spirit Artworks, it's about responsibility. It's about responding to the very first emotion you have. It's about letting go, letting it happen, and letting art create itself. It's almost like life creates itself. Don't worry about it. It will take care of itself as long as you don't hurt and harm. And this lesson hit me hard because it's a realization I had also made but ignored. It's something that had pushed me halfway through there. And then he wrote again. It's one thing to be trapped physically, but it's a totally different game when you're trapped mentally. I've been trapped mentally far too long. I let my situations dictate me. I kept getting the same negative results every time I chose a negative route. eventually I was like, well, let's see what happens, what's to be gained when you go the positive route. And letting life come to me instead of running into it. Now, with those realizations, I stand here now today. Because even when I came to America, I've had one exhibition, I've had no comedy shows, had no performances. Because again, I felt like, am I good enough? What will I talk about? Even at 6:50, I was like, what am I going to do tonight? I know I've got the poetry, I've got the painting, but I didn't see this coming. But when I let go and just let it be, magic seems to happen. And that's the message I bring to you now, is that being here now in America, it depends on where you look. Because sometimes you open the paper and it's depressing. We're running out of water in California, homicides and suicides. We forget the beauty. We bury the beauty in all that. So, in closing, I'll say this. The key. Invoke beauty, but with faint thought. Light up life's misery with faint smile. Pick out the jewel from yesterday's fight. Plant these in the dullness of every next day's mile. Child, then you plant immortal thought. See your face in every happening situation. Every part of you reflects every creation. Justify life through your eye, my child. Then you reflect immortal thought. Learn then from the elder's word. Give full ear to the counsel of the ages. Let vengeance flee from your heart without a word. Like a bird in a broken cage, set vengeance free. For my child, love is the key to immortality, not words smeared with historical hatred. Learn then, my child, the key in every day to seek. Thank you. For those who believe in the true power of humanity, for those who've looked in the face of America and say, we're not gonna take that. For those who look back and said, we will hold hands, black, white, Indian, or Chinese. For those who looked at America and said, believe in yourself and you will get there. For those who hold America as not a land, but a person. For those who embrace us, the immigrants. For those who look through the eyes and not see color, but only see a heartbeat, responding to every beat of yours, and in unity we walk together, making beautiful sunshine beauty as it is, and not reflections of pools of blood on the streets where the law has chosen to take its power. For those who have chosen to say, we can make it beautiful no matter how ugly you say it is, because we can. For those who look without judgment, we see you. For those who wish us well, we see you. For those who want to help but cannot, we see you. For those who think that it's all in vain, no. Love is all there is. You may call me wimpy, but that's all there is. I came from a land where my own color trod on me and wanted me to sink deep into the very ground I was standing on, alive. I came from a place where hatred personified showed that one person can drive a nation down. Do not ever in your wildest dream imagine that the power of one cannot change the world, because it can. You imagine, if you will, a man moving a mountain. Yes, it was done. A man moved a mountain. Maharishi in India did move that mountain when his wife succumbed to death because they couldn't reach a hospital in enough time. So he chose to make it the purpose of his life to dig through that mountain and get right through it and cut off 8 miles of that journey to make it only 2 miles to the next clinic. A man moved a mountain. What is it that stops us from moving that mountain, that blocks us from being together in a space that's beautiful and shining and happy? Don't believe the type. Don't believe the hype. But believe instead the palpitating heartbeat that's in your soul. Believe the first blink and breath of life you take in the morning, because that is your true you. Believe in beauty, because beauty is unexplained. Much as we live in a technological age, we cannot create a butterfly to flutter by and flatter us with its color and beauty. There is something out there, deep down inside there, that keeps us going, that tells us we are one, that tells us we are powerful, that tells us we can. Thank you. Thank you very much. My apologies if it was a bit scattered, but the whole idea was, if you're packing to get out of a place, you don't organize that well. There's no time for that. You know, I mean, I can't really imagine how many toothbrushes and umbrellas I had to buy when traveling. But this is the life of an immigrant. The worst part is when you ask for papers. And when I went back to England a couple of weeks back, the guy comes up to me and he says, "This is just a routine check, sir. We're not suspecting you of anything." And I said, "Oh, come on now. I can see you coming. I mean, you've done this 5 times before. Here I go." You know? And he searched me and he said, after that he said, "Why the attitude?" And I said, "Because you always search me on the random search, you know?" So, but what I realized was I approached it with humor. Before I would come back and say, "Oh, bloody racist. Jeez, it's not fair. Why me? What?" Now it's like, it's not my problem, you know. My day goes on. Always look on the bright side of life. You know, and life is lighter. It's so much lighter when you let go of that burden of judgment and anger. So I just wanted to share that. And now I open it up for questions. If there are any questions about anything, feel free.
What was it like when you were 5 years old when the British colonized?
When I was 5, I have vivid memories about it. I was in boarding school from the age of 6. So we grew up in a society that was such that if you were black, you were a minority. We grew up to hate ourselves because the white people were the bosses, and we were okay with our fathers being called boy. So I admired my white friends because they were white. That's what I was taught. You know, I was taught to look up to them, to be second best. And we lived with that, and looking back, it was a terrible reality. But unfortunately, it's something that lingers on. Like now, I mean, it's mixed in with a social psyche in that we admire what's good. We take in what's good and appreciate it. So for us, it's like white people have got it together, you know. That's one thing that's pushing Zimbabweans along now is we look back at Zimbabwe and say, "Look what you did. You damn messed it up when you got it back, didn't you?" I mean, here you go. I mean, saying we want our land back. What? Do something. Show us. So it's there's a lot of stigma around color, and it was bad. To be honest, it's not nice being second best, you know, always playing second fiddle. Yeah. In school, it was a right to be bullied if you were black. I mean, yeah. And if the whole school, dormitory had to be caned, the black and Indian kids would be crying, but the white kids would be okay, you know? We were caned by the same stroke. So things like that. We had to live through that.
What were the pictures of the bulldozers?
Oh yes, the bulldozers. That was 2005. The poem I did, that actually happened. So after the elections, the ruling party lost. And their way of reminding you who had the power was to go into the townships and the low, high density areas and knock down houses because they were illegal. They were making the place dirty and they were cleaning up. So basically it was a political message to say, hey, if you don't vote for us, this is what we'll do to you. So the funny thing is that there were no riots, no revolts after that. People kind of looked at it and said, aren't you ashamed of yourself, you know? Because Zimbabwe had come out of a war of independence in 1980. And then this happens 30 years later. It's like, I mean, I remember gunshots. I was 5 years old, but I remember gunshots. There were those who remember the war vividly. So war for Zimbabwe was, we were done with that. And the government was taunting people to get into war so it would turn into a police state. So that's what that was about. Yeah.
Do you have family in Zimbabwe now that you are in contact regularly?
Yes, my mother and my brothers are still in Zimbabwe, so it's much better now that we use your currency. Yeah. So that's the first. Have you ever seen the $100 note, the one with this amazing security features, almost like 3D? Have you seen that? How many of you guys have seen that? That's your dollars. Yeah, I've seen it in bundles in Zimbabwe. Then you get to wonder what's going on, you know? So yeah, I've got family and they're happily spending US dollars there. The funny thing is, if you see a US dollar, $1 from Zimbabwe, you won't recognize it. It's kind of the mix between brown and green, and it's floppy. It's just like tired pieces of paper because they've been around so much, they've been circulated so much. It's amazing. Yeah. Yes.
I was going to ask, on Tuesday night when we were at the protest, when the city was trying to and succeeded in, passing these completely bogus laws criminalizing homeless people, I had the sense that you really knew about that experience of that disease, from your firsthand experience. Can you say something about that?
Yeah. When I see homeless people, for me, it's not like they are homeless. For me, it's a whole chain of events that led to that. Whether it's by choice, somebody chooses to be on the streets, but what led them to that choice? You know? Is it a broken home? Why is that home broken? Because the father doesn't make enough money? Why doesn't the father make enough money? Because he wasn't educated well enough? So there's this whole trickle down, this whole chain you can trace right down to the base of it. And also the other thing is that, seriously, if people are on the streets, it speaks something of your society, you know? I was back home in Zimbabwe. When I was practicing my art, I would go on the streets at night and I would meet these kids who lived on the streets. And they would say, okay, I'm going home. He meant to his corner. But when I asked them, why are you not at home? You've got parents. Once you got to know them, they said to you, I don't like the idea of being beaten up every day. There you have it. You've got a sick society. Somebody's abusing someone else. Therefore, they choose the hard concrete rather than a roof, you know? And in other cases, people are well educated, but they choose to be on the streets. One guy said to me, I'm disgusted by what you're doing. And I said to him, well, what do you mean you're disgusted by what I'm doing? And he said to me, oh, this education, and look at us. We can't even look after each other. And we got into conversation about what it meant to look after each other. And he said, well, back then, before all this, we used to worry about each and every person in the community because that meant tomorrow it will be you. It was that simple. You know, you take care of me, I'll take care of you. Pay it forward. So if a society can't pay it forward, then obviously you're going to get symptoms of it, which is people living on the streets. So that's the angle I'm coming from. Okay, yeah, so we're there. We're done. I know we said we would go, oh wow, look at that. Look at that. Nothing makes me happier. Just make sure you don't get too much of it on your hands, okay? I had other things in mind, but that's okay. I can live with that. That's okay, we'll wash it up. Wash it. Okay, so any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Do you consider America your home now?
Wow. 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 Jeez. That's a hard one because I'm actually considering a green card. No, sorry, an American passport. Wow. Now, home to me is familiar faces, familiar people, familiar land, familiar food, familiar connections. Since I've been here, I've made the most fantastic connections. You, right? I know most of the people in this room, and I'm so happy that, you know, I'm doing it in front of a familiar crowd. I'll get to know the ones I don't. But for me, that's what home is. It's when you begin to look around and see familiarity and begin to realize that you're safe. And it's okay to be you. That's why I'm standing here making a fool of myself, sort of. But my daughter was born here and we bought a house here, so it's painful, but this is becoming home because I've met beautiful people here and I see the promise of beauty here because there are people who believe strongly that you can turn things around. So that makes it comfortable for me to call this home. Yeah.
Why is it painful?
Because it's about letting go.
Yeah.
It's about letting go. It's the idea that I won't call them. I will have two homes. One which is slowly becoming lesser and lesser, which is Zimbabwe, because, you know, I'm getting more ingrained into this. So I guess it's just attachment that makes it painful, you know, not wanting to let go. Thank you, Don and Sally. Thank you so much. So I guess it's just attachment that makes me, you know, it a bit painful to realize that I'm here now. So yeah.
Has your family visited your home here?
No, my family can't travel here that easy. It would take a couple of trips to the passport office and a couple of interviews by the foreign office to say, why do you want to go there and will you come back here? So chances of that are very slim. Yes, sir.
Do you ever feel guilty about leaving Zimbabwe?
I feel guilty in a lot of ways because a lot of friendships fell apart once I left. I mean, we tried to maintain them through Skype, through email, but it's not the same, you know. There's something about human contact. So a lot of friendships fell through, and our comedy act, it was a dual comedy act, and each time I hold the microphone and say I want to do comedy, I kind of see this ghost of my friend there, and we used to bounce off each other so beautifully, and, you know, I kind of feel guilty about that. But I've learned to embrace that and face it as it is, so, yeah. Yes.
Does your family still have the farm that your father?
Yeah, fortunately my family still has the farm. I say fortunately because there was a time when if you didn't vote for the next guy, you didn't deserve to have a farm. And they would come, now this might sound like a joke, but they would come and say, okay, everybody, out. I mean, out, what do you mean out? Get off the farm, get off the land, go. Go where? Just go. And if you don't go, what happens? They will, you know, sorry, the children here. So they will mess you up. So my family fortunately kept the farm because they've got a long history in the community, a very long history. And it's kind of like a communal farm. Like I said, the spirit my father had was, what's mine is yours. So we still have that. My father's, yeah, we still have that. Yeah. Yeah? Are we done? Yeah? Okay, finally. I don't know how this will pan out. In Zimbabwe, we had one TV station. Now, when you have one TV station and 30 channels, it's different from having 30 channels and 30 TV stations, right? Because the funny thing is, you were forced to watch what was ever on the news. And we had favorite personalities coming through. For example, the newscasters were our favorite. And it always started off in this kind of jocular manner. The news, read by Ruben. In Zimbabwe, there are certain people who are criminalized by the very virtue of the fact that life is not going well for them. In the view of the government, this is not a problem. This is not a problem the state has to deal with, but a personal one. According to the ministers, it's their own problem. Moving on. In other parts of the country, there have been reports of riots. And according to the police, am I supposed to say this one? It's okay. The opposition has been holding peaceful rallies. Are you sure it's okay? Opposition is the one inside, right? It's okay. Because they get into trouble for showing any signs of support to the opposition. The opposition has proved to hold peaceful rallies. And this might move the nation forward. Are you sure? The end of the news, the weather report. Now this is my favorite part because unlike the newscaster, the weather guy was more animated. In fact, a bit too animated. Welcome to the weather. And I'm very glad to tell you that in this part of the country, it's okay. In the lower region of the country, they've got problems with weather there because there are too many clouds, thunderstorms and kind of things. Temperature in the eastern half, around the 30s, and it might get warm around this region, as you can see, as the day progresses. Over here, closer to the lower part of the country, the weather is zero temperatures. That means no weather over here. So there's nothing. Just a note, because zero is very unfamiliar to Zimbabwe. It's cold. But usually we have 15 to 20, it's okay. But zero, that means there's nothing going on over here. But if you look to the eastern highlands, the clouds are coming up. It looks like it's very moody, very angry over here. And if you happen to be there, buy an umbrella and avoid the Chinese ones because the Chinese umbrellas cannot possibly take this type of weather. That's all what I have to say. Thank you. My friend had a character, I just gotta bring this one up. My friend had a character called the Minister of Impending Projects. Now, this is what we got into trouble for, because with this very same camera, we were filming the show. And he comes on and he says, yeah, he's dressed up as a minister, you know, with a tie and a cowboy hat, funny enough. Yeah, we took the farms. But that's not just a political act. It's for you, the populace, the people. How many farms have I got? For my farm. On my farm, everybody is free to do what they want. You can come and sow whatever you want, and no problem. My sister, okay, that's a beautiful woman in the back. Excuse me, madam, are you single? Yes.
No.
Okay, it's okay. As a minister, I have to know your status. Yeah, it's okay. Carry on. So, what I've got to say to you people of Zimbabwe, we took inflation, we made it ours. We took everything and made it ours. Politics, it's ours. Inflation, it's ours. We took many zeros and gave you zeros so your money would feel powerful. But you look back and say, now we can't print the money because too many zeros. So we took those zeros off and gave you US dollar. That's what my minister does. We are champions in what we do. This little boy is tired now. You want to go home? Yeah? It's okay. Anyway, that was the character he did. I didn't do it well, but yeah, memories. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much. If there are no more questions, I think we'll come to the end of it. I'd like to thank you very much for coming through, and I'm closing. I'll just give you one more poem to close. When you close your eyes, a quiet sunset, a warm breeze, a silent whisper, beautiful and true. Gentle hands caress your heart, put you to ease. This all happens when you close your eyes. Tender lips soothe your heart, it's unbroken. A world where you are welcome. You are a welcome stranger. No fear, no tears, no. You can't see what's coming, but you feel it 1,000 ways. This all happens when you close your eyes. So take a part of the day just to dedicate to close your eyes. Thank you. Now, being Zimbabwean, of course, I've got a prints for sale. No, that's just a joke. If you don't already have one, you're free to come and get one. These are free. It's a print called Spirit of Hope, because I think that's all we have. So if you would like a print, these copies are free, and I'm happy to sign them if you would like one. Okay, so feel free to come up and get one. Okay?
These guys are really troopers.
We'll talk to you later about it. Yeah, I think they
I will see you guys around. Thank you so much. I love it. A lot of soap, just a lot of soap, and you'll be good. Soap for a long time, you'll be fine. It's a pretty sort of chemical. A lot of soap.
They look like they do what they do. Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you. We're again.
Yeah, we both went together. I know you guys probably have, but if you want to give it to someone, I'm happy for you. Thank you so much. So I call it this experience.
Just like,
I want to attract you more. Yeah, all right. Let's talk to you more.